Hi. I have on reading glasses. I realize they look ridiculous, but I'm going to put in, hold on, shoot. I was trying to put in a comment. Well, I can't. Never mind. This is sort of an exciting video for me. I do a lot of videos, probably more than most of you'd like to see, but rarely are they on topics that I'm probably passionate about. And you know, in the world, everybody's busy. Everybody's got 490,000 things to do. Like a 13-year-old talking out there. But one thing that is really important to me is advocating for families. So this isn't like a funny, you know, ha ha ha. Have you talked to your 9th grader who's been avoiding you for a month video? And the answer is no, in case you're wondering. I have not. I texted him tonight and said, call me before study hall. And he was like, no, I'm busy. Oh my gosh, why is he not calling me? What is it? I can hear you breathing. What do you want?
I want to look at the calendar really quick.
So, close the door and take the calendar out. If you have any advice about teenagers, I'm accepting it. So anyway, one thing I'm really passionate about is making sure families that have children with disabilities know what services are available to them. And the reason that is so important to me is because I didn't know myself. And when we think about Medicaid, I think we think, well, I'll tell you what I thought. Let's just be totally honest here. I thought Medicaid was for people that maybe didn't work, couldn't work, didn't want to work, and generally maybe had more children than they could afford, and just, you know, thought they'd take some money from the system. Is that correct? No. But did I think that? Yeah, I did think that, probably because of who knows where. But let me tell you about Medicaid. And recently, I had this discussion with a county commissioner in my small town. And, oh, I'm glad you're here, Lisa. And I had talked to this group. So there's a group called Trillium, which is just a lifesaver and a godsend for my family and many others that live in my neck of the woods. But I was talking to a county commissioner at a school board election meeting. You should always go and meet people who are running for things. Okay. I'm on the video. You're not on this video. Tomorrow night, you are listed for the subscriber video on teenagers. Yes, tomorrow night. If you pay $5 a month, you get access to Blair.
You said I can pick the topic.
Well, I've already picked it.
Well, I'm going to pick.
Can you tell us where you got your robe? No, but Peggy, if you go and follow me on Instagram, you'll be eligible to win 2 of them. Which I'll be mailing out tomorrow, picking the winner tomorrow morning. Okay, out. Seriously, you're distracting me. And if anybody says she needs attention, she does not. She does not need attention.
My mom doesn't feed me. She's not denying it.
I'm going to beat you.
Hey, Mom, what did I have for lunch? You don't even know because you didn't give me any lunch.
But
I had
you're 13. We have food
cookies.
here. I don't make people lunch.
Some people like draw their 13-year-olds baths and they give them little bath bombs and they give them little chocolate strawberries.
I'm going to give you a knuckle sandwich. Close the frickin' door. I'm not kidding. This is why I feel old. She really is doing a subscriber video with me tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. I mean, if you want, she So now she's in there denying everything I said. I haven't gained 5,000 on Instagram. I've gained 1,300. You're like me. No, I've gained like 1,000. It takes a long time. But anyway, okay. Medicaid. So you might be thinking, who needs Medicaid? I don't need Medicaid. Let me explain how this works. And this is a little bit of a lengthy topic. So get your robe on and settle back. Years ago, children with disabilities were placed in institutions. Now, they were not typically placed in institutions as babies. That's a little bit of a untruth that's been shared. Before 1975, if you had a disability, where it could have been Down syndrome or autism or a variety of things, you were not welcome at your public school. So most children with disabilities went home with their families, and then when they turned 5 and their siblings got ready to go off to kindergarten, back then most people went to kindergarten at 4, the eligibility wasn't as strict, but your child couldn't go. And so your option was, if you want your child to be educated, then you're going to have to send them to this special school. And it's going to be like a boarding school. And so and I've heard from these moms and siblings of families whose brothers and sisters were home with them. And then their parents were told, you've got to send your child away so they can be educated. And the parents did it, not because they didn't want their children, but because they didn't know what else to do, right? Thank you, Patricia, for sharing that. Well, what they realized, and Geraldo Rivera, who is somebody that you think, ooh, Geraldo Rivera, oh, thank you, Martha. Geraldo Rivera did kind of a hidden recording of some institutions. I think it was one up in New York, of what it was like for children with disabilities. And I remember years and years ago, I was maybe 14, watching that video. And I don't think I could watch it now. And I'll tell you, Twyla, we'll get to that. There was a little boy in that video who clearly had autism, and he was naked on a floor. I can't even watch like commercials where the dogs are in the cages in the cold. So this thing is really hard. A little boy with autism with no clothes on, just in a corner, hugging his knees. And that could be Amos. That could be my person that I love. And so what happened was they took money that was funded for institutions. So Twyla just said Medicaid for people with disabilities should be income-based. And I will argue that I don't agree with that. And I'll tell you why. And it doesn't mean that I'm right. But I will tell you exactly why I don't think that is fair or accurate. Willowbrook was the institution. And again, we're all here to make the world go round, and we have to believe in different things. But in this country, we have always taken care of people with disabilities. Always. There has never not been a time where our country didn't take care of those people. And I think it's really important, because I think when we stop doing that, we are really saying you're not valuable. So what happened was, instead of spending $35,000 a year on an institution 30 years ago, the money now, Medicaid money, comes into a state. Most every state has a waiver program. There are a few that don't. Lots of states do it lots of different ways. So if you have a child with a disability, I'm going to say this a few times. What I want you to do is Google somebody today said to me, I live in Michigan. What's available for me? And I said, what you do is Google the word Michigan waiver program. 3 words, Michigan waiver program, California waiver program, South Carolina waiver program. And when you Google that, something will come up. So in North Carolina, it's called the Innovations Waiver, but each state has different names for it. So Medicaid money comes in from the federal government, and it comes to each state. So North Carolina, that money comes over here and it plops down right here and it sits in an account and it builds interest. The interest from that money goes to help children like Amos. So it's super important. Now, currently in North Carolina, we have about 15,000 people on the wait list. Now, what the waiver is, and it is not based on income. One, children don't have income. Now, you could say, Adrian, you have a beach house and you have 4 children and you have a child with a disability and you work and you're paid by Facebook every month. And why should you get money from the government? And I would argue to you, our country has always said you're valuable, and we know that it's cheaper to keep children home with their families. That Medicaid money also pays for speech therapy, occupational therapy in school systems, which is super important. And let's just say for a minute that my 3 children are going to go to college, and they could feasibly get a student loan if they needed to and pay it back. How is Amos going to get a loan and ever pay it back if he wants to do a college program? Or what happens if something happens to me? Who will take care of him? Who will get his insurance? These are really big deals. So when you get the waiver, you get Medicaid with the waiver. So when Amos turns 26, right now he's on our insurance and will continue to be. But when he's 26, he no longer will be able to. And my other children, my 3 children, aren't going to have to stress out and worry, what are we going to do about Amos's health insurance? So the reason it's so important is because he matters. He matters. And so do my other children. So we have, in North Carolina, I think there's 6 or 7 care providers. Cardinal recently went away. So this is about North Carolina, but really every state has kind of a different setup. My friend Kate Swenson, who has a blog, Finding Cooper's Voice in Minnesota, they just get an amount of cash every year. North Carolina doesn't do that. So we have the service provider Trillium. Now, Trillium is, to me, the best service provider in the state of North Carolina. Amos has had access to summer camp, which is free for us. We did not do it this summer because they were short on people, and we decided to do something different. And Amos, we have this great thing called a Grant for Independence. The Grant for Independence, we've had 2 applications, and they've both been funded. One was a fence for our yard because we live on the water, and that was important. And the other grant, recently, if you ask anybody in my town that's been around this weekend, we just got something called a buddy bike. And it's a bike that has 2 sets of pedals and 1 set of handlebars. And Amos sits in front of me, and his seat has a back on it. And I hold the handlebars. He kind of holds on in the middle. And he can pedal, and I can pedal at the same time. So this is a $2,000 bike that we didn't have to pay for. Could we have paid for the bike? Yes, I think we probably could have paid for the bike. But I also have 3 people going to college, and, well, recently, a property that I had someone who was hoarding in, and it's going to cost a tremendous amount to fix it up because she didn't have any money. So there's always going to be something that money is for. And my other children shouldn't be pushed to not have opportunities because of Amos. And you can disagree with me, but I just think it's super important. It is a precedent that has been set long ago, and I think it's important. To me, it would be similar to saying, if you have money, you should have to pay for public education. What's the difference, right? If we have money, why don't we pay for public education? So Amos gets, through public education, his education, I think that he gets about $17,000 a year. So does that mean families should have to pay for that? Because then at some point, how do you know how much money has or how much somebody's doing? When Amos was a little fella, we had early intervention. So if you have a child with a disability, they are eligible for early intervention. early intervention is birth through 3. So your child might be behind. With Amos, he wasn't crawling yet. Anyway, I just was worrying about him. And I had my pediatrician do a referral, and the speech therapist came to the house, and the care coordinator and the physical therapist, and they came in my house. And I remember this day, I talked about this in a TED Talk, but I remember Amos was lying down on a blanket in the corner of the living room, and this woman who I love, didn't mean this in a bad way, but she looked at him, and he was laying there on the blanket, and she said, what can he do? And I guess I looked at her kind of probably scared, and she said, is that all he can do? And it was terrifying for me. So at the time, he then was eligible for 2 speech therapies a week, and 1 occupational therapy a week, and 1 PT a week. But then we also had our insurance through Blue Cross Blue Shield, so we also did private therapy. And we were limited to, I think we were able to get 15 speech therapy sessions for a year. Well, he did 2 a week. So that's what, 7.5 weeks of speech. Now, if we had had Medicaid, which we weren't eligible for, and we were on the wait list, he would have had unlimited. And at the time, I wrote a lot about, why can't I buy Medicaid? I just want to be able to offer my children, my son, these things, and I can't even buy it. It's not accessible to me, which is what Liz just said. We have families with children who are medically fragile. And I don't care how much money you have. Sometimes children are very expensive. Yes, thank you, Christy. The cost associated with care services support is exorbitant. Medicaid becomes necessary for the financial stability of the whole family unit. I would agree. Now, the biggest thing for families, so if you have children with special needs, what you're going to do is you're going to Google your state. Michigan, waiver. Florida, waiver. For unmet needs, specifically. Waiver for unmet needs. So when I did this, somebody told me about it. Amos was about 3. The application was maybe 3 pages. I filled it out. I think the doctor had to do something. We had a diagnosis at the time. Is the waiver and the wait list the same thing? So when you apply for the waiver, Eileen, you're put on the wait list. So if you've applied for the waiver, my guys got Michigan waiver, they wouldn't be able to have some benefits. I don't know what that means. Some people have Cap C, which is for medically fragile children. It's from 0 to 20, but then it ends. Most people opt for the waiver over Cap C. We're not eligible for Cap C because Amos is not medically fragile. So anyway, we applied for the waiver, and they said, you're now on the list. At the time, they told us it's 7 to 10 years. It's now been almost 6 years, and there's some people that waited 13 years, 10. We've been lucky enough to have a waiver for 15 years. I'm happy to help anyone out there if needed. Oh, thanks so much, Jill. I'm in North Carolina. The wait for the waiver for Sand Hills is 10 years long. So the deal is, and the General Assembly did open up more waiver slots once in the last year, which was a long time coming. So once you have a waiver slot, once Amos gets a waiver slot, and at the time they told him 7 years. So that would be when he was 10 years old. But let's just say for a minute, it might be 10 years, so 13. Once he has that slot, as long as we live in North Carolina, he has that slot for the rest of his life. So that tells you that the slots only come open when someone dies, which is not something you really want to happen, right? So there are a number of slots per county, which is super important. So what you might find is that some counties, particularly rural counties in my area, there are some counties with very few people on the waiting list. Where big places, Raleigh, Chapel Hill, I would assume they have long waiting lists. There are emergency slots. Oh, Melissa, I don't know what those are. I have heard about them, but I really don't know anything about them. But that would be interesting. So we are on the wait list. I found out about 3 years ago that the Florida is Med waiver. Thank you, Nora, for sharing that. I found out 3 years ago, every year you get a phone call from me, Trillium, and they say, hey, how's it going? How's everything? What do you need? And the fellow that called me said to me, now you realize you're eligible for some services while you're on the wait list. And I was like, no, I didn't know that. And at the time, we just hired a nanny, which was sort of a big step for us to help us with him and to help me with my blog originally. If you're applying for Cap C, should you apply for a waiver too? Yes, Megan, yes. Go ahead and apply for the waiver. You know there's going to be a wait list, and you could have Cap C in the meantime. Cap C, there is no wait list. You either get it yes or no. So yes. Wow, Michelle. So anyway, we said, okay. He said, you are eligible for 25 developmental therapy hours a week and 40 hours a month of respite, not to mention the grants for independence and the summer camps, that kind of stuff. I don't understand holding the spot if the child comes of age before they get the waiver. Kim, I don't know if I understand your question, but there really aren't adult services separate. The waiver is where all the services happen. And if you don't apply before you turn 21, you are missing the biggest services that are available to you. Now tonight, my husband was like, why are you all dressed up? He's been windsurfing all day and then just went to play tennis. And I said, well, I had to take a shower with Amos because our nanny had off yesterday and today, and which I work on weekends. But even when I don't work, she's also provides respite for us because Amos requires a lot of attention. So one great thing we got this new bicycle. So he and I have been taking bike rides all weekend. This afternoon he got tired of riding. So then he ran on the sidewalk and I chased him on the bike, which was kind of fun. But my husband, I said, well, I'm doing this video tonight on the waiver. And I said, to let people know, I met a mom yesterday at the playground with an 8-year-old from Southern Shores. It's about an hour from us. And she had no idea about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, you've got to apply. Or I met a family on a cruise in August, and their grandson, they lived in a Midwestern state, and they had never heard of it. And then I spoke to an administrator in our school district over something else for Amos, and his son's getting ready to finish high school. And he hadn't applied for it. He was like, thanks for reminding me. I was like, you've got to do this. You've got to do this. What is Cap C? So Cap C is for medically fragile children. Our daughter had Cap C and was on the wait list. Took 3 years for Innovations, but Innovations pays for so much more than Cap C. So the waiver is worth, I think they say about $60,000 a year. They might pay for a Y membership, all sorts of things that you might need. If you have a child with physical disabilities, they might help you change your home around or fit a car. How does one apply for Trillium? So Rosemary, you're going to move to North Carolina and you're going to apply for the North Carolina Innovations waiver. My care provider is Trillium. They cover this part of North Carolina, but there's 6 or 7 different groups depending on where you move. So you'll apply for North Carolina Innovations waiver, and then your care provider could be VIA or it could be Trillium. It depends on where you live. Oh, Marla, that's good to know. Marla is an adult with a disability on my page who's also a subscriber and just really wonderful. Thank you, Jessica. Cap C helps to keep children at home. Arkansas has the TEFRA waiver where families can buy Medicaid as insurance and get all those therapies and medications. Oh, wow. I didn't know that, Dana. That's really cool. I made $3 more than the eligibility cutoff from food stamps. My son has Tourette's. He's 17. Would he get the waiver? I don't know. I think it has to significantly impact your ability to live independently. So in my thought, Amos is always going to need assistance, even if Amos does amazing, wonderful things. And we think he is fan-frickin-tastic. But can Amos like today, a man found $1 and he said, would he like this? And I was like, we've never even talked to Amos about money. You know, most children, almost 9, are like, give me the money. You know, he doesn't know. Or somebody said, well, it's not fair that he's the #1 seller of fundraiser, the wrapping paper. He sold like $12,000 worth of wrapping paper. And I was like, well, you don't have to worry about the fact that he'll gloat because he has no idea, no concept. And he doesn't get his, oh my gosh, the dog. Honor. The dog stands out there and makes that sound drinking water. I promise you when I'm on a video and have the door closed. Stop. I can't take it. Melissa, share the information. I have 3 sons with autism. They all receive services through the waiver. I would say is ADD, ADHD, Tourette's considered medically fragile? I don't think so, but I don't know. Could CAPC help him in North Carolina because his foot was amputated? I have no idea. I don't know. I really don't know. I did know a family when I was an early interventionist long, long ago. I had a little girl and she was missing her right hand because the umbilical cord wrapped around it. And she got early intervention services. And I was in school still, so I wasn't like her main early interventionist. But she lived in a mobile home, kind of out in the country, outside of Cary or somewhere. And I remember we went in there the first day, and the main early interventionist had this like pretend food. And she was talking and playing and like working with this little girl, how to have mobility and all that kind of stuff. And I remember she showed her this, she had a rubber egg, a fake egg. And she said, oh, and this little girl who couldn't have been 14 months old said, smells like shrimp to me. And I mean, you could have knocked my freaking head off. This child was brilliant. And so she became one of the first children in North Carolina that started school at 3, not only because she had this disability, but because she was so gifted. And at 4 or 5, she didn't get any more services for the hand thing. They were like, yeah, that's not causing her any problems. So what a great problem to have, right? Thank you, Melissa's. Looking it up. Such a game. My nephew has autism. He just graduated from high school, applied in his junior year. And there are programs, but they're really expensive. So I have a friend, Carrie Cariello, and her son, Jack. If you follow her on Facebook, she's really great. And he's in a college program. Super expensive. He kind of lives in a residential area and then goes to a nearby community college. And these programs are a fortune, an absolute fortune. So even if your family does have more money than some, this is a long time of care. In the future, to be really honest with you, we waited so long for the waiver. My daughter was 3 days past 21. We found out that we would have it then, then it was too late. The waiting list is crazy. So she didn't get it done. Babies can't wait. Is there assistance for ADHD? I don't know. I wouldn't think so. Oh, thank you, Daphne. I'm a practice manager for pediatric practice, and it's disheartening that they have no idea. Well, Daphne, I'm so thankful for you, and I'm working with Trillium this year. I'm really taking a step back from speaking and going to do some volunteering with Trillium because it's super important to me, and some meeting with legislators in my state about how do we make sure that all families have access to this information. Pediatricians need to be telling people about it. EC teachers need to be telling people about it. Early interventionists need to tell people about it. Speech therapists should tell people about it. Moms like me at the playground should tell people about it. I mean, I am passionate that people have access to this because having Mary and the funding that helps provide for her so that I can do things with my other children, like go to a cross-country meet, because there are literal things that I wouldn't be able to do or families couldn't do. It's a big deal. It's really a big deal. Now, the problem is, even though it's a state waiver, it's subjected per person, county, who is eligible. Would you believe I was told my daughter would not be? Oh, Liz. Well, Liz, maybe because some people there might be somebody with Down syndrome who lives like totally independently. I mean, I think they do. So I believe it. But it's really important to me. What else? There was one more thing I wanted to talk about. So if you have a child with a disability, if you know someone who has a child with disability, pharmacist, perfect. Please tell them to apply for the waiver. If they live in North Carolina, it's the North Carolina Innovations Waiver. If they live in another state, do state plus waiver for unmet needs. So Mary, our nanny, also is paid through an agency funded through Trillium. So we get 25 hours of developmental therapy a week and 40 hours of respite a month. So those are great services. So we actually hired Mary, had Mary apply for the job, and then pay Mary additionally so that it's more of a living wage. Now, once you get the waiver, Mary will make more with the waiver, which is great. The waiver is really a wonderful, wonderful thing. And there's also some tax write-offs, but I haven't found that they make a huge, a huge difference. Am I missing anything else? Does anybody have any questions? I have a subscriber group, and so we do daily videos, and I let people pick topics. So just today, I kind of put up a list for the week. We're doing like an all about autism. So these are things, if you feel like you need more information, I do this kind of stuff on my regular page. And it's also a place where you can ask me questions, because I just can't respond to the 100 messages I get a day. But if you're in my subscriber group and we're having a morning coffee and you ask me a question, I do generally try to respond. The pay through the waiver isn't great. Yes, Melissa. So we're paying our provider extra, which is great that we can, because it's very difficult. We were one of the first families with Trillium. If you get to hire your own staff and it pays employees more than through an agency. Oh, that's interesting. Our daughter is 19, has had the waiver for 5 years, waitlist for 8 years. Sorry, I can't do all this talking. You would think I smoked. Med adjustment. Yeah, just got somebody down. Well, I'm about to go start the bedtime process. If you don't apply, you'll definitely not get it. My daughter's 33 and has had the waiver since 4th grade. And listen, I think there are people out there that think they don't want Medicaid. They don't want to accept help. They don't need help. You need help. At some point, you will need help. You are not going to be alive forever. And I'm going to say that very blatantly, because I am that mother. So if somebody else said that to me, I'd kick them in the teeth. But I can say that to you because it's true. And that is the fear that made me start writing at 3 a.m. 6 years ago. I thought, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And now that fear doesn't hold me anymore, because I'm like, you know what? I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what the future is like, but it doesn't bite me in the ass now. I've got a plan and I'm working on it. And I know that these services are available to me. And this is what we're doing. And I don't know. We gotta find a piece of candy or something. There's the dog. Because I want to say something real important. Here's I wonder if a melatonin gummy would help me. Hold on. Somebody mailed me some, wrote, Sissy, do you have any candy? I can't, Sissy, do you have any candy? Oh my God, this family hates me. I'm going to stick on a melatonin. I'm sweating. Why am I sweating? Because I don't have the air on in here. I'm trying to keep my bill down. I don't think this is going to work. Ugh. I'm not sucking the melatonin. In my town, you have your Hugh Hefner robe on. In my town, there is a group home for young men with disabilities. And that's always been like the scariest thing to me. And about a year ago, I met some young men. I'm going to eat a bite of banana. That's exactly what I'm doing. At the Habitat store, the Habitat Restore, which is like where I love to go get furniture and my son's couch and all that kind of. Oh my gosh. Just like Food Lion got these things sewn up. Honor, I'm not giving you the banana. These young men live at this group home in Edenton, and Jennifer is one of their care providers, and they volunteer there on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So most Tuesdays and Thursdays, I go to the Habitat store. I like to see if there's anything new. I've been looking for a dresser, and I like to see James and Thomas, though Thomas moved, and talk to them and say like, hey, tell me about where you live and how do you like it? And so that I'm not scared and I understand like, boy, this is something that Trillium is paying for. Anyway, it's too green. No SHIT Sherlock, I know that. I'm just kidding. It's awful. Why can't I talk? No, ma'am. Leave it. You sit down. A dog drooling over my banana. So there you go. Open from the other end. Well, too late now. Sam. Yes, we do need to advocate. And advocating at the state level is huge. But maybe from COVID, I have had it three times. We're in here. We've had our shower and we're in our jammies. What you doing?
The ninjas are taking a ride on a roller coaster.
The ninjas are taking a ride on a roller coaster?
Yes.
Oh no. Are they scared?
Yes.
Is Honor gonna ride on the roller coaster?
Hang on, you're going down.
Where are we gonna go this week, Amos?
You stopped. We are going to the fair trip.
The fair? What day are we gonna go to the fair?
Fun house, firehouse, and Ferris wheel. Take 3 both, please.
We're gonna go to the fun house, the firehouse, and the Ferris wheel. Take 3 both, please. Okay. Who's going to the fair? Who?
Amos and Mommy.
And who else? Who else is going? Daddy. Who else? Sissy.
Russell.
Well, Russell's at school, not Russell. Blair. How about your other friends? Who are your friends that are going? Autumn? Is she going from school?
No.
How about Ruffin?
Get out of my chair.
Get out of your chair. Okay. What day are we going on? What day are we going? What day, though, of the week? Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday? Tuesday. That's right.
We are going to the fair.
Yay, fair.
It's
going to be fun.
Bye, Mommy.
Bye, Amos. We got about 5 minutes and we're going to go up night-night.
No.
Yes.
No.
You know, I can't imagine having to not have him with me. I just can't imagine. So I'm so thankful. Even though last night we got up at 3:30 in the morning for the day. So we kind of tired. So we going to bed here in a minute. But anyway, but thank y'all for listening in. I know that was kind of long and detailed, but please share it with somebody if you know they need to hear it or know it. And I'm sorry it was a little generic, but I hope it will help somebody, because it's important to me and to a lot of families like mine. Thanks. Come over to my subscriber group if you need a safe place to fall. We're a good group. Sometimes when I'm up at 4 in the morning, I do videos just for the hell of it. Sunday morning at the fair will be sensory friendly. He suddenly has no sensory problems when he's at the fair. He's wild, wild, wild.